Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to a live Manchester United news, transfer news, and preview show. We play Fulham in the FA Cup today. I believe it is a 4:30 p.m. kickoff, and I tell you what, the FA Cup. I know we won it last year, but I want to win the FA Cup so badly this year. For me, if we need to win a trophy to be in Europe next season, we're not going to be in Europe next season, whether that's Europa League or not. I don't care. Win the Champions League, win the Europa League, be in the Champions League. That would be ideal. But I don't know if we're going to win Europa League. But what I do know is Liverpool are out the FA Cup. Arsenal, we knocked out the FA Cup. Manchester City are beatable. They're not the Manchester City they used to be. We've got an opportunity to win the FA Cup, win a trophy, and secure at least Europa League football next year. Because if it's no Europe or Europa League football, I don't mind Europa League. It's always a path back into the Champions League, and I think we always need that as, at Man United. So I'm very excited for this game versus Fulham. Although I say I'm excited, Man United seems to be such a boring game to watch in recent times. Honestly, the last time we played Fulham, it was that Martinez deflection for anything to happen. Although I do think that Ahmed goal shouldn't have been ruled out because that was good play. I feel like Fulham is always a boring game. And look, I've got a cold. I am ill. I know my voice sounds rough. It probably won't be a super long live stream, so I am aware of that. But I want to talk about the Fulham game, how important it is. But also, I want to talk about Amorim. Amorim has told Manchester United players who he wants out. He's called out the players that he wants out, to them. He's very open and honest with them. Who could go? Ollie spoke about Man United managers and what they can struggle with. INEOS lying to Amorim. Was Amorim betrayed by INEOS? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about recruitment. We're going to talk about Victor Osimhen. Apparently, we've agreed to pay his release clause, but I'm skeptical about the source of information, transfer news, Mason Mount, and a few other stories that come out in today's video. Kevin says, I don't think United beat Fulham. I think it's difficult. I think it's 0-0, 1-1 all over it. And I think with someone like Dorgu out, it's going to be harder for us because he can break down low blocks. Now, it was said breaking Chido Obi won't play any part in Arsenal's Youth Cup tonight as he stays in Manchester with the first team group. That was obviously said on Friday. He's in the line to play against Fulham on Sunday. So, I think Obi Martin will definitely be on the bench, 100%, because if not, they would have him in the Youth Cup game. Well, does he start? Because Amorim might want to rest and rotate, and there's not many options to rest and rotate in attack. Does he rest the Xerxes? Does he rest the Hoylands? I mean, it's a difficult one to do because the only player in attack that seems to get rested and rotated is obviously Garnacho right now on and off the bench. So there is questions of could Obi start, and I think there's a possibility. I think he gets half an hour off the bench. I think Ruben Amorim's still reluctant to start him because he's so young, but we've got no depth in attack. I think he could easily get half an hour off the bench again today, but I do think it will probably be Xerxes, Rasmus, Garnacho front three. The thing is, we've got no other options for the front three unless we play Bruno higher up, but with Collier out and Maynard out, it's also more difficult to play Bruno higher up this season as well because we're in a bit of an injury crisis. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see Obi. I'd like to see Jack Morehouse or James Scanlon be involved in the squad just because I think that they could potentially do well in that 10 role because I'm more concerned about sort of the 10 and the depth in the 10 there. So I'd like to potentially see someone there. But big up everybody as well. Good morning, Alice. Hope you're okay. Everyone said birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to Josh for yesterday. Get some vitamins inside you. I will. Had a bit of orange juice, so that'll help as well. Fair play, Alice. You're a diamond. Keep on going when you would probably sooner be off air, lying in bed, take 2 Lemsips and a spoon of sugar. Big up everybody in the chat. Appreciate all the kind comments. Would be a good game to test Obi's start, but Amorim ain't into taking risks, no doubt. Especially, I think, in the FA Cup, with it being the route back into Europa League next season and Europe next season, it's got that extra elements of important. Although, didn't Amorim say something along the lines of he's not that focused on the cup, it's about the season and progress, whereas Ten Hag was very much a cup-focused person. So, you never know. I'd like to see Obi, or at least one of the academy players, get minutes, or Obi and Scanlon get half an hour, or Obi and Jack Morehouse get half an hour. It would be nice. Strange tactics, supposedly keeping distance from certain players or telling them they are gone right when we want to try and get the best out of them this season, which is a fair point from Alex as well. We will talk about Ruben Amorim and him making it clear to players sort of what their future is at the club. Should he wait till the end of the season, or is it good that Ruben Amorim is being very clear with the players now? That's the question, very clear with the players now so they know where they stand, or should he wait until the end of the season to make sure they all play for him? So this is what Ruben Amorim said himself. Ruben Amorim said on saying goodbye to some players at the end of the season. We can talk about it at the end of the season because it's difficult. We still have a lot of games to play. It's not a difficult situation because everybody understands that in football sometimes you stay, sometimes you have to move on. If you know how to explain it, it's easy. I like to do it because I want to be clear. He said, when you're honest with someone, it's difficult at first, but the person will understand. So I'm very honest with my players, and they already know sometimes you have to move on at the end of the season. So this is Amorim saying in regards to Manchester United players, he knows players are going to leave at the end of the season. He's honest with those players and he's not afraid to have those conversations with those players. And those players will be aware they are leaving at the end of the season. It also been reported that Ruben Amorim isn't one to shy away from tough conversations. Even before arriving at Manchester United, he made it clear to players like Christian Eriksen that he wouldn't have a big role due to the intensity he demands. Despite Eriksen's strong form under Ruben Nistelrooy. And if you remember, as soon as Ruben Amorim was appointed, Fabrizio Romano kept coming out saying players like Christian Eriksen will struggle. Ruben Amorim is big on intensity. So before Amorim was even in the door, players like Christian Eriksen within like a week sort of knew that their role wasn't going to be that big because he couldn't play at the intensity that Amorim wanted. Whereas Christian Eriksen was becoming quite a key player under Ruud van Nistelrooy and in Ten Hag's final games. He was doing quite well this season. You know, Ruben Amorim isn't shying away from those tough conversations. He knows what he wants. He knows what he needs. And Eriksen knew sort of from day dot, you know, and it was, I felt a bit bad for Eriksen because there was actually an incident where Eriksen was fit, but he wasn't in the matchday squad. And he found out on the day of the match over phone that he wasn't involved in the matchday squad or something like that, which was maybe a little bit brutal. But, you know, Ruben Amorim made it clear from day dot where Eriksen stood. But Casemiro also been told for his lack of intensity is why he's struggling for minutes. When Amorim was asked about Casemiro not getting many minutes, he said it's about the intensity of the legs. He praised Casemiro as a player, his understanding of the game, how good he is, but he was saying what he wants is different, and Casemiro can't bring what he wants. He's already told Casemiro where he stands. He said about Anthony, you know, he's technically good, but maybe doesn't have the physicality for the Premier League, so would do better in La Liga. Because so Anthony was shipped to La Liga for physicality concerns. And after one game at striker, Amorim basically said Rashford's not a 9. After that game versus Ipswich, 60 minutes, Amorim made it clear Rashford's not a 9. He does not rate Rashford as a 9. So the Portuguese coach has already outlined his vision of forming players of their future roles and who will be on the chopping block. And this is true. Ruben Amorim's made it very clear with players from very, very early days. You know, after one game, he was honest that Rashford isn't a number 9. You know, Garnacho hasn't started a lot of games. We know that Garnacho was almost sold. Casemiro, he's been honest, he doesn't have the legs. Eriksen, he's been honest, he doesn't have the legs. Now, you could ask, is this a good thing? Because the Rashford-Amorim situation almost seemed a little bit toxic towards the end, and it felt a little bit like he was going in on Rashford. So there is elements of, is this fair? Is this keeping the squad on the side? But then there's also other elements of, well, this shows his authority. This shows he is in charge. This shows he can show the culture because it's his way or the highway. So Ruben Amorim's been very clear with Manchester United players sort of where they stand and what their future is. And he said he's told the players who will be saying goodbye to in the summer. Ruben Amorim has told the players who he'll be saying goodbye to in the summer. Now, I do think sometimes, you know, players like Garnacho, I would act like he's here, he's part of your plans, because I think him being forced out in January has got to his head a little bit. And I don't know what the stance is there, but we're going to talk about that. So in terms of who will go and who's Ruben Amorim going to say bye to, that'll be Rashford, Malacia, Anthony. The loans are there because they want to increase value. Lindelof, Eriksen and Heaton will leave on a free. Johnny Evans will also leave on a free. I forgot about him. Casemiro is wanted out, but the wages are going to make it difficult. Garnacho likely for sale due to PSR. They tried to sell him in January. And Onana and Højlund are not seen as safe. So this is just some of the players that could go. There's talk of Delo leaving, but again, nothing reliable has come out. But he's not the best fit for the system. But these are the players that look like Ruben Amorim has probably said to them, look, there's a possibility you could go. But I look at players like Garnacho and I say, I wouldn't tell a young player like Garnacho he could go in summer. I'd say to Garnacho, you've got to fight for your place and earn it. If you show me something, I want you to stay. Whereas with a Lindelof, Eriksen and Heaton, they know they're going on a free. With Casemiro, you're on highway, just look for him, move away. I think there's elements of where honesty is good and where honesty is bad. Shows authority, but players certainly not responding to that approach. Yeah. But the problem is, do the players respond to any approach? You know, you got Ollie that was super nice and, you know, towards the end, they took advantage of that. Rangnick called them out and they were distraught, but Rangnick was temporary. The one thing I think with Amorim is because Amorim's permanent and INEOS have made it very clear they're backing Amorim. You know, they got Rashford out like that to make it clear they're backing Amorim. He's permanent. the players know that they can't just get Amorim out like that tomorrow and revolt against Amorim, that he's maybe in charge is different under INEOS, whereas Ralph Rangnick, they knew it was temporary, so they could be dickheads when Ralph Rangnick was calling them out. With Amorim, maybe they have to suck it up a bit. On Amorim's comments, Anthony showed some physicality yesterday, helping Betis beat Madrid. Yeah, he did say that as well. Anyway, well, Amorim didn't say that, but you make a good point, David. Sorry. Jalen Hammerson should be called up. He's an absolute baller as a right wing back, fast dribbler, good tackler. Played 120 minutes the other night and was non-stop until the final whistle. He was probably man of the match in that game, in my opinion. He was one of the better players as well. You know, some of you will be gone in the summer. You can be down and put a bad performance for the rest of the season, or you can give all you got and end the season on a high to show your capability. And that's what I hope Ruben Amorim is saying to the Manchester United players. You know, I hope he's saying, like, yeah, you're going to be gone at the end of the season, but why don't you want to end on a high? And on a high note, you know, like Ander Herrera, people are like, oh, bye, you know, rather than a player that everyone's like, good riddance, I'm glad you're gone. And on a high note, give 100% as well. Ruud seemed to find a way to appeal to the squad, strike a balance right away, yeah. But Ruud was very much, he was an interim, so he was just doing what catered the squad and what got the best out of the squad short term. Whereas Amorim wants to bring in his long-term plans, which isn't going to benefit a lot of the squad. And I think he wants to lay down his long-term plans now. And obviously the squad don't like that because it doesn't get the best out of all of them. I think that's the difference. It's, you know, when Ten Hag adapted, it costed him. Whereas Ruud van Nistelrooy, because he's interim, of course he's going to adapt and do what suits the squad best. Amorim isn't doing what suits the squad best, but he's doing what he's going to do long term, and he's learning who in the squad can and can't do it, which makes it more difficult for the squad. But also, he's also making it very clear to players where he sees them and where they stand, which I think Ruud's approach was probably better. But I guess we just have to think of the long term project and let Amorim do it his way for the long term. And we just got to assume that this season is one of those seasons where it's just like a meh, sorted out kind of season. But I do think I like Ruben Amorim, but I think we could be playing better if he adapted things, if he had slight things different. I think we could be playing better. I think we could have more points, but I'm also aware of the fact that this is sort of this short term pain for long term gain where we're sort of, yeah, we could be a bit better, but if we do this, it will benefit us more next season. I think is sort of the stance with Ruben Amorim. Callum Wilson's contract ends this season, Alice. Won't be high wages, obviously fitness issues, but short-term solution, the experience you need. Again, lack of intensity, fitness issues. It'd be another Martial where he plays about 3 games, I feel like. I wouldn't want to take the risk on someone like Callum Wilson as well. Casemiro not leave. Why would he on massive wages? Unfortunately, not great for United. I'd happily sit on the bench for money. And Casemiro himself basically said in an interview he's happy at United. He wants to see out his contract, which INEOS won't be happy about. They're trying to force him out, and Casemiro might be like, F you, you're trying to force me out, I'm going to stay on these big wages, why won't I? And you can't even be mad at Casemiro, like, we're the ones that gave him 350k a week. So if he wants to stay on those big wages, you can't even be that mad about it, to be fair. But yeah, it's annoying, but Casemiro, they want to sell, but I think he'll stay. No one's going to pay his wages, not many people are interested in buying him, and he's happy to stay at United on his big wages, even if he's not playing. Because when he quoted saying he wants to see out his United contract, he wasn't even playing under Ruben Amorim. He was getting like 1 minute off the bench. When is see players doing well after they leave? Use make me despise them more. Why did not they do it for us? Toxic environment or not? Look at how Amma behaved so impeccably and performed and behaved. So struggling to read that. Look, a lot of it is environment. Anthony's doing well at Betis because La Liga isn't a physical league. They don't close them down as quick. If you're technical, you do better in La Liga. Whereas in the Premier League, you need to be faster. You need to be more physical. You need to be less predictable. Marcus Rashford doing better at Villa because Marcus Rashford all of a sudden is creating chances and they've got a good striker in Ollie Watkins and a good player in Asensio. Rashford would create these chances at United. We didn't have the players to finish them off. Elements of it is, yeah, why didn't you step up and do this at United? It's frustrating. But also other elements of it is, well, this player suits that system. And this player suits that system. And there's a better environment. There's less pressure. And they're playing with better players, some of them. And they're playing in a nicer environment. Because Man United is unsustainable. The leaders don't know what they're doing. A lot of players don't suit the system. There's a lot of high stake and high pressure. Whereas if Rashford going to Villa, the system suits him. The pressure isn't as high, but he's got better players with him at Villa, which sucks to say. Anthony goes to La Liga, it's a more technical league. Anthony's a technical player, he's not a physical player. He's not a player that is rapidly quick or rapidly strong. So there's elements of that to it. A lot of players will leave United and do better. Scotty suits Serie A to a T. He suits Napoli in the way they play, and Ollie played Scott McTominay as a DM. Everybody knows he's not a DM, so it's some of it is maybe they are just giving a bit more because they're not at United and they're playing to save their career. But I do think a lot of it is profiling, squad building. We've done that wrong. We've got so many players under so many different managers that we don't play in their best role or best position. We have this toxic environment. So anyone new that comes in is bright, then becomes toxic. Dorgu's come in, he's new, he's bright. I know he's got the red card, but he was good. He looked new, he looked bright, he looked physically better, he looked technically good. 3 months' time, we could be saying Dorgu's been meh, and he could have been sucked into the rest of it. That's, we have, like, every time there's a new signing, they look quite good to begin with, and then there is that sort of big drop-off as well. So I get to elements what you mean. Amorim is going to fully change the United DNA. I think it's going to take time, and there's going to be some painful moments, but I think Amorim will fully be changing the United DNA. But a lot of people won't like some of these changes because PSR, there is talk of Garnacho going, there is talk of Beda going. I think Garnacho is going to leave in the summer, and I have a list of reasons why I think Garnacho is going to leave in the summer. INEOS made it clear they're happy to sell him due to PSR. They briefed that, they said that, they tried to sell him. INEOS started working on a sale with Napoli and Chelsea, and Garnacho was involved in talks and agreed to leave. Garnacho leaving United was so advanced that Garnacho was involved, INEOS was involved, Chelsea was involved, Napoli was involved. It wasn't just media talk, it was advanced, it was happening. INEOS had decided that they were going to sell Garnacho, PSR, bish, bash, bosh. Ruben Amorim did not start Garnacho in many matches and was initially okay with selling Garnacho, and then he learned there would be no replacement, having already lost Anthony and Rashford with no replacement. Ruben Amorim only said yes to losing Anthony and Rashford because INEOS said they would replace him. We didn't get Tell, we didn't get a replacement. Amorim was annoyed with INEOS, and he said, well, I can't sell Garnacho because I'm going to need all the attackers I get. But Garnacho's sale in the summer is predicted because of PSR reasons. The fact that Amorim, had he got a replacement, would have been okay to sell Garnacho. The fact that INEOS wanted Garnacho gone, and in the summer there'll be more replacements available. I think Garnacho's gone in the summer. I think if Garnacho shows something from now to the end of the season that's really bright, that's really exciting, maybe he stays at United. And I do think when Garnacho comes off the bench, the energy he brings, he shows that he brings something unique that nobody else in our squad can bring. And I think he's one of our better and more influential players. He's still better off the bench than when he starts. And I wouldn't want to say no to Garnacho and completely cash in on him. But if there's an opportunity to sell Garnacho because you could get Matheus Cunha that's more suited for the system, you can understand why Amorim would do that. Garnacho knows those are the clubs at the top, and the club are trying to force him out. Amorim would be okay with a sale with the right replacements there, and Garnacho's more of a winger than a left 10. So in terms of United DNA, it's always been about the youth, but actually it's very different now. It will be selling Garnacho. It could be selling Maino to try and get the funds to go elsewhere, which some people won't like, because if you sack Amorim and you go back to managers that play the 4-3-3 and Garnacho leaves United as a top class winger, we're going to look at that thinking, oh, what have we done here as well? Someone said, why are we still talking about Rude? It just comes up a lot, but yeah, we need to talk more about more about Amorim. I'm just scrolling down the chat because I'm quite behind as well. Garnacho's also getting sold because he's not a 10 and Amorim does not trust him at wing back, which is true. 100%. Anthony's success in the league shows United executives were clues about football talents. Yeah. Garnacho doesn't suit the system. We're just forcing things because we're attached to him, and also because we've literally got no other options, and he's the only player that can come off the bench and make a difference. I didn't see the Cunha red card, but I think that means he's going to be out on FPL, actually. And I just subbed Cunha in an FPL like 2 days ago for the Everton game, and is he going to be out now, Cunha? Is Cunha out? Just a random question. If Cunha gets a red card in the FA Cup, does that mean he's going to miss the Everton game? Which is going to really pee me off. I think he is as well. Great. Absolutely great, because I subbed Cunha in FPL literally yesterday. That's so annoying. Anyway, let's continue on into the next story. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer spoke about Man United managers, an issue they had. He said, an issue at Manchester United is that the manager plays with the previous manager's players. I just remember a great time at United apart from the last 6 weeks. Great people, and the culture is great people. The culture is in the people. And he's saying, but the biggest thing was playing with other managers' players. Now, let's talk about Amorim, because Amorim comes in and Amorim inherits Ten Hag's players. Now, Amorim is a very different system to Ten Hag. It's more physical, it's less technical, it's more wing-backs, it's not wingers, it's tens. Ruben Amorim has now inherited Ten Hag's squad that wasn't playing well under Ten Hag, and now he wants to play a completely different way with a squad that wasn't playing well under Ten Hag. So to bring Amorim in, you've got to back him. You've got to spend a lot of money because he's going to need a lot of new players. Amorim said this on whether the owners were honest about him, about the club's situation, especially financially. Because Man United rung up Amorim in panic, and they were like, take the job, take the job, take your job. And did they lie to him to try and convince him to take the job? Because would Amorim have taken the Man United job had he known that he was going to have 2 attackers gone in January and them not be replaced. He said, in terms of the owners being honest with him about the club's financial situation, it's hard to say whether they're honest or not. I felt like they were honest, but I need to see things and feel them for myself. I knew the situation, I knew it was a risk, but we survived, we do our best. I think it's difficult right now, but it will help us in the future. I hope we'll see. Now, Ruben Amorim can't really come out and say they lied to me, they're not honest, because he will get in trouble. Him saying it's hard to say whether they're honest or not, I felt like they were honest, but I need to see things and feel them for myself. I think it's him saying, at the time I thought they were being honest, but now I've learnt more about the financial situation. I don't know until I see what I get in the summer. I see that as Ruben Amorim thinking he's been lied to. He's not 100% sure. Until he knows what he's got in the summer, he needs to see things and look at it for longer. He can't go out and say, yeah, they weren't honest, they lied to me. He'd get into so much trouble for that. But the fact that he's saying it's hard to say whether they're honest or not, I felt like they were honest, but now I need to see things and feel them for myself, is Ruben Amorim saying, at the time I thought they were honest, maybe now not so much. I need to see things. That's the way I see it as well. Can you likely get heavy ban and likely miss Everton game plus others? Great. That's my FPL screwed. Someone said much of the post-Sir Alex Ferguson era brought certain players without taking Gaffer into account. Hopefully that's changing 100%. We need managers that suit Ruben Amorim as well. Ruben Amorim needs to be backed by INEOS. They need to bring in players, they need to spend money on him, but they need to bring in the right players. And have they lied to him about the financial situation? He only got Dorgu in January when Rashford and Anthony went. He didn't get a replacement. Elements, but I think Ruben Amorim is saying, I won't judge what they do until the summer. If Ruben Amorim does not feel backed in the summer, he'll know he's been lied to, but I think he's not going to say anything till the summer. So why has Amorim been betrayed, in my opinion? I think INEOS have betrayed Amorim a bit. I do think he's been lied to. I do think he's been betrayed by INEOS, and this is why. They didn't get him in the summer, and they wouldn't get him next summer, insisting he had to come now and leave Sporting mid-season. They said, if we're not waiting for you till next summer, we'll get someone else. And they didn't get him last summer. They insisted he came in mid-season. It's fine to insist someone comes in mid-season, but there's no point insisting he comes in mid-season and then not backing him. Despite pushing for him to join immediately, they weren't willing to spend much on January and claim they had no money. They clearly must have said to him, we've got money, we're going to do this in January, come in now so we can prepare for the January window to just bring in Dorgu. If there's no money, why bring in a manager with a completely different system and player requirements to Ten Hag? If you've got no money, why are you bringing in a manager that now needs wing-backs and tens, that doesn't use wingers and doesn't use traditional full-backs when you've just spent 600 million doing that for Ten Hag? Why don't get a manager that plays a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 if you've got no money to spend? That's not fair on Amorim. You know, if you're going to bring Amorim in, you're going to have to spend a lot of money. And if you're insisting he comes in January, you're going to have to back him in January. To ask for him to come in mid-season, I think is betrayal. INEOS wanted to sell Garnacho, leaving Amorim with barely any attackers. Then Amorim said, no, you cannot sell Garnacho because you're not going to replace him. Rashford and Anthony were not replaced, and Amorim only agreed to let them go if they were replaced, which they weren't. So I do feel elements of Amorim has been betrayed by INEOS. I think INEOS was so desperate to get rid of Ten Hag, so desperate to bring Amorim in, they probably made the situation sound better than it was. Maybe they fully back him in the summer. Maybe they do something big in the summer. But I do think they probably made the situation sound better than it was when they were trying to bring Amorim to United. I do genuinely believe that. Let's continue on into other news, into other stories. Ruben Amorim said this on the board. He said, the board are making difficult changes, which are not popular, but they're doing it because they have a vision. But in the future, we have to show results because you can make a lot of changes, but if you don't have results, people don't have confidence and they're not happy. For that, you have to win games. We are doing things to be successful. And he's spot on. INEOS are making unpopular decisions, but if in 3 years' time we're challenging for a Premier League title and we're looking really good and we're looking at our best since Sir Alex Ferguson, people aren't going to question too much what INEOS have done the last 3 years. But if we're sitting here in 3 years' time in 12th place with another manager looking really crap and looking really rubbish, people are going to be questioning everything INEOS did, sacking this person, bringing this person in, bringing that person in, and they're going to lose faith in INEOS. And people are already starting to. When INEOS came in, people were somewhat positive because they brought Dan Ashworth in, they brought Omar Barada in, and then Dan Ashworth is gone. And this situation's a mess, and that situation's a mess. And while INEOS are cleaning up 20 years of Clay's a mess, and it's not going to be a success overnight, and we have to be patient with it and understand that, people are starting to lose faith with INEOS with the impulsive decisions on Ashworth. You know, INEOS have shown to be impulsive. Ashworth's situation felt the same. Ashworth, Ten Hag, people are going to question it. The Glazers are the biggest problem. And we can't expect INEOS to change this club and transform this club in 1 year. We have to be patient with INEOS before we judge them and call them Glazers 2.0. They're investing money in the club. They care about the club more than the Glazers in the sense that they're investing money in the club. They're getting the right execs in. Of course, they want to make money out of the club, but they think the best way to make money out of the club is getting us back to being successful, whereas the Glazers are just happy to make us a top 4 club. But INEOS have got a lot of decisions wrong. INEOS aren't totally convincing. They haven't run Nice the best. I will back INEOS over the Glazers any day of the week because INEOS are making unpopular decisions because they have to clean up the 20 years of mismanagement that Glazers have done, which has put this club in this financial situation and make difficult changes. But if we are here in 3-4 years' time and we're no better under a new manager sitting in 12th place, any positivity and favour having INEOS then worries me because I'm saying, well, you were the ones that meant to fix it. You brought this person in, that person in. If you can't fix it, who will fix it? There is going to be that element of negativity. So I do think Ruben Amorim is right. Ashworth was gone for a reason. Ashworth went because he thought the club was being impulsive, sacking Ten Hag and bringing in a manager with a completely different style of football when they have no money to back him, which I think is fair from Ashworth. Ten Hag should have gone, but I think Ashworth made some fair points. Now let's talk about transfer news and some other stories going about quickly here. So again, I don't know how reliable the source of information is. It's not a source of information I'm particularly familiar with. But it was said that Manchester United have informed Napoli they will trigger Victor Osimhen's release clause in the summer. Don't know how reliable the source of information is, but everybody on Twitter keeps putting this out. I would take it with a pinch of salt, but Victor Osimhen is definitely one that Manchester United are watching. Also Kenda as well, also Cunha as well. Also, I thought this was positive, so I thought I'd include this in today's news show as well. Maguire said this: the group of players believe in Amorim's tactics, but probably need reinforcements, and I'm sure there will be some. We believe in Amorim, his tactics, and his coaches. There's been a lot of leaks that they don't believe in Amorim's tactics. They want the formation to change. They don't believe in the coaches. La-di-la. Maguire, one of the more influential players in the dressing room, says they do believe in Amorim. They do believe in his tactics. They do believe in this. They do believe in that, which is obviously really, really good to see. I think there's going to be a couple of players in the dressing room that aren't happy with Amorim because maybe they were more important under Ten Hag and not playing as much now Amorim's in. But I think those players will go in the summer. There's going to be 1 or 2 players that aren't happy that are leaking things. You can't please everybody. If you're 15th place or 13th place in the league, you're not going to please everybody. If you're first in the league, people have to shut up if they're not playing because you're first in the league. But if you're 15th, you're not going to please everybody. People are going to question you, of course. But it's good to see Maguire saying that the group of players do believe in Amorim. I do believe the core group of players do believe in Amorim. I just think there's, of course, going to be 1 or 2 troublemakers in there. But I do think the leagues is such a minority of players. I do think a lot of players just believe this is a long-term project. We're going to need the right players in. We've got to back the coach. And we're seeing slight improvements, weirdly. Set pieces, we saw the improvement there versus Ipswich. But it's still not good enough. But it's about progress. It's about improvement. It's about sort of what we can see going forward. And then, interestingly, I've always said this. Recruitment is key. Recruitment is key. That is going to be so key to our future. We've got to back Amorim, we've got to spend money on Amorim, but it's who you bring in for Amorim. It's bringing in the right players. As Maguire said, we need to bring in the right players. We back Amorim, we back a system, but you've got to bring in the right players. Ruben Amorim needs to be backed. And I saw this here and I thought, we've got to read this out. Manchester United want to create an algorithm to help predict injuries for new signings. United have approached the University of Manchester to see if student staff have the skill set to develop an algorithm as part of the data overhaul. Bringing players in like Mason Mount and him not staying fit. Bringing injury-prone players in is a big problem, particularly Mason Mount. So I'm happy with that as well. I think when we bring in players, we need players that have got the right attitude. We need players that are ready to step up and able to deal with the pressure of playing at Man United. But we also need players that we know aren't going to be injury prone, that can suit the physical demands of the Premier League and Amorim system, but also the technical demands. I think Dorgu's a really good example of recruitment. He looks physically good. He looks technically good. He suits the wing-back role. He's young. He's hungry. He's been really impressive. I know he got the red card. It was rash. He's young, but he's been impressive. We need players like Dorgu with a good fitness record, that look physically good, that suit the system, that look technically able, and look hungry. We need a mix of, yes, young, hungry players, but we also are going to need some experienced players coming in when it comes to recruitment. I think we do lack experience. There's so many young players that have now got to be big figures in the dressing room, which isn't fair on a young player. We need that experience. We need some more ready-made players. But I think recruitment will be key. I think recruitment will be key. Troublemakers need to be rooted out once and for all. Look how Ahmad remained professional despite his poor treatment by Ten Hag. 100%. People causing leaks, people causing trouble need to go. Someone said, yeah, no more Mason Mount type signing as well. 100%. Maguire's having a moment at the moment, so he's going to be Mr. Positive. I don't think Maguire's been great lately, actually. I think he's dropped off a bit. I know he scored last game, but I think he's looked a bit shaky. He's looked a bit mistake prone, like Everton, hasn't he, as well? Let's hope in 3 years' time, much better off. But at OG Nice, been lateral move, if not regression, since they took over. Nice look a bit better now this last year, but other than, this last year, it took a while for Nice. So, it's the rebuilding process is going to take a while at United. But the best thing that INEOS can do is get recruitment spot. If you can get Amorim 5 really key players that suit his system, can deal with the physical demands, intense demands, aren't injury prone, I do believe Amorim can make us successful with the right players in his system. But it's going to take recruitment being spot on. It's going to take patience, of course. As long as we see progress next season, as long as we see Amorim being backed, I'm very happy. Josh says recruitment is key. Both players and staff, medical staff need looking at. Don't want make same mistakes at Mount, set pieces. Someone who just keeps it simple. Yeah, I agree with elements of that as well. Injury record is something we definitely got to look at. I think Liverpool are one of those teams that have looked at injury record a bit lately, with McAllister, Gravenberch signings coming in, which was smart of them. But listen, people, I'm going to wrap up the live show here. I only wanted it to be a half an hour live show talking about the Fulham game, Ruben Amorim and all of that as well. But before I wrap up the live show, I just want to read out this comment. You're a looking brilliant bit of business, also quite rare for such a young centre-back to handle top level and have such potential. Yeah, Lenny Yoro was really good at left centre-back last game. He's adapting to a new system. He's never played in a back three, but I feel like he can handle the pressure. He also looks technically good on the ball. He's going to have bad games. He's going to have shaky games. He's going to have learning curves, Lenny Yoro. But for 18 years of age, I think there's going to be a top player in Lenny Yoro. He really impressed me last game as well. And big up Alice. Yeah, my throat is closing up, but big up everybody that tuned into today's live show. I will be back for Manchester United versus Fulham match review later on. I'll see you next time. Bye.